Hey, what's up guys? I'm Ryan from Extreme Terrain, and today I'm here with the Sprintex Intercooled Supercharger Kit fitting your 2012 to 2016 Jeep Wrangler JK. This is for the JK owner that's looking for a lot more power, way more than they're ever going to get in stock form. This system is perfect for street and trail driving as it's going to give you a ton of low-end torque by building boost fast. It's going to make your drives more enjoyable and it's going to make those hill climbs a breeze. With this system, you're going to get increased throttle response and a lot more power. Sprintex claims up to a 55% increase in horsepower. Now this is an intake mounted system and it is fully integrated, so it's already filled with oil. This features a very efficient twin screw compressor, and the intake is made from molded glass-filled nylon construction, making it very lightweight, strong, and heat dispersing. Now, this supercharger has a built-in intercooler and even has a water-to-air intercooler, keeping your charge cool and the supercharger temp cool as well. This system comes with a tuner, fuel injectors, and even some sensors, everything you need to accommodate that extra fuel and airflow. Now the tuner is going to let you take it one step further, accommodating any gear or tire size changes. Currently, this system is around $5,500 on the site, making it one of the most affordable intercooled options that we currently offer. As far as installation goes, I am going to give this a 3 out of 3 on the difficulty meter and expect this install to take you about a day. Now with that being said, let's hop into the install. Tools necessary to complete this install: various socket extensions, electrical tape, tape measure, roll of tape, pry tool, 13mm wrench, 10mm wrench, 3/8 drive ratchet, 1/4 inch drive ratchet, 7mm socket, 8mm socket, 10mm socket, 11mm socket, 10mm socket, 13mm socket, 15mm socket, 4mm socket, short 10mm socket, 10mm swivel, 1/4 inch drive swivel, T30 Torx, 6mm Allen, 5mm Allen, pliers, channel locks, wire cutters, needle nose pliers, plastic pry tool, a knife, flathead screwdrivers, stick magnet, scissors, torque wrench, and a 1/2 inch sharp brake bar. So before we get started with the disassembly, the first thing we're going to do is relieve the fuel pressure system. So what we're going to do is remove our fuel cap. We're also going to take out our fuse for our fuel relay. After we do that, we're going to crank the motor over. This is going to use up all that gas that's in the lines and in the injectors. We're going to wait till it stalls out. Once it stalls out, we're going to try to start it again, make sure that it won't start, and then we can put that fuse back in. So this fuse is going to be a 10 amp. It's going to be in this box underneath of your hood, and it's going to be labeled M37. So we're going to do that now. So to get this panel open, you're going to push these 2 tabs backwards. That's going to flip open for you. Next, we're going to take our fuse removal tool, and we're going to grab this one down in here. It's a little red 10 amp fuse in between these 2 ones. We're going to pull that out because that is for ABS and our fuel relay. We're going to pull that fuse out and just set it aside. So next, we're going to go to the back of our Jeep, and we're going to remove our gas cap. So after you pull the fuse out, we're taking the gas cap off. Next thing we're going to do is climb up in the Jeep. We're going to start this thing and wait till it runs out of gas. So once we make sure that the Jeep is out of gas, we're going to put this fuse back in, and then we'll disconnect our battery on the negative side. We're going to take a 10mm socket. We're going to loosen up this nut here. Not this one, we're going to do this one here. This is going to loosen up the terminal so we can remove it. So next we're going to do is remove our grill. This is relatively easy to do. There's going to be 6 push pins up at the top. Then this whole thing is just going to unclick and pull off. You will need to disconnect your lights. So we're going to start with these push pins up top, show you how to do that right now. So to get these push pins out, we're just going to pry up on the center. We're going to use a flathead screwdriver to get all these out. We'll just work our way across. Next, we're going to pull the grill back. We need to disconnect our lights. So you can either just turn these counterclockwise and unplug them, or you can actually disconnect them with their plug. We're just going to twist them and let them hang there. We're going to do the same thing for the other side. Just twist that so you can pull that whole light out, and we can pull our grill out. So after that, you're going to have a series of clips on the bottom. You can just pull this whole grill out, and that'll separate it. If you have a winch, it's gonna be a little hard to get this grill out depending on where it's mounted, so you can take your front bumper off. So we're gonna slide this up and out of the Jeep, then we'll put this aside. So next thing we have to do is drain our cooling system. So we're gonna pull our rad cap off, then we'll go underneath with a bucket and open up the drain. So your drain is on the passenger side at the bottom of the radiator. You can see it through the front of the vehicle. What we need to do is we need to turn that. We have a bucket underneath of it, and that's gonna let all the coolant out. So while the cooling system is draining, we can start on some of the disassembly. So the first thing we're gonna do is remove this cover, then we can work on our air box. The next thing we're gonna do is take our intake out. Now this guy has an aftermarket intake. However, if you have the factory one, you're gonna have two 10mm bolts you need to take out of here, and a few clips for your air box. You can pull that whole section off. So we're gonna pull this PCV hose off of here. And we're gonna take our flathead screwdriver, and we're gonna loosen up this band clamp around the throttle body. That's gonna allow us to pull this section off. Then we can flip this up, disconnect our sensor. So after we get the intake out, the next thing we're gonna do is disconnect our harness. So we're gonna unplug our throttle body and our map sensor. So to unplug this, you can press down on this tab here. That's gonna unlock that plug, and you can pull that out. So then we need to free it up from this bracket over here. We're just gonna get behind that. And we'll need to get it off of this intake. And we'll need to unplug this map sensor. This is relatively easy to do. We're just gonna press down on that little tab and unplug that. So next we're gonna disconnect the PCV, the fuel vapor purge, and our brake booster line. So if these are stuck on here at all, you can just grab them with a pair of pliers. Just want to be careful because all these lines are plastic, you don't want to break them. So next we're going to take this support bracket off. So you're going to have two 10mm nuts up here. There's going to be two 10mm bolts down here. Next, we're going to go over to the passenger side. We're going to take this support bracket off. So you're going to have two 10mm up here, two 10mm nuts down here. This will free up all this stuff up here. And then actually we'll go down on the bottom side near the valve cover. We have two more 10s down there. So we're going to start up here at these two. So you may need to pull these PVC or PCV lines out of your way. And that way you can get to these two back here. Next we're going to do these two down at the bottom. So I'm going to use a deep 10mm on a swivel with an extension and attempt to get these out. Next thing we're going to do is just free up all this stuff since we have to get our intake manifold off. So we're going to get our vent tube out of here, just slide that over to the side, and we're going to get both of these plastic tubes out. Remember, be careful because they are made of plastic. Next, we need to disconnect our harness, so we're going to pull back on this red locking tab. Then we're going to slide this towards the front of the vehicle. Next thing we're going to do is remove our heater core lines where they go into our motor. So we're going to start with this top one here. We're going to squeeze this clamp shut or open. And slide it back off of our line. And you probably need to grip this line. Just twist it to break it free. Once you get that free, we're going to wiggle it, pull it back. And we'll do the same thing for this other line. So next we're going to go up by the firewall and disconnect these aluminum lines where they made these two rubber lines for the heater core. And we also need to disconnect this other line down here as well. But before we remove this bracket, we have two lines that are still attached to it, so we need to pop those off. So at this point in time, we're going to get ready to take this intake off. So we have a bolt back here. We need to take this piece of foam insulation out. So we're just going to get under that. Pry those two push pins out. So we're going to have a couple bolts holding this in. So we're going to start with these three up here. I'm going to use an 8mm socket to take those out. These are captured, so they're going to stay in there. Just need to make sure that all these are loose. Next, we're going to do this one in the front here. And do this one here on the side. There's another one back here. And then we have one all the way back here. So next you have the support bracket over here on the driver's side. We're going to use a 10mm socket to take these two nuts off. After that, we can pull our intake off. So we're just going to lift it up, slide it to the passenger side so we can get off of that bracket. And we can remove it from the vehicle. Now that we have that off, we're going to take a clean rag and we're going to lay it over these ports. That way we don't get any dirt in there. Next, I'm going to pull this foam section off. After that, we're going to disconnect our fuel rail line. So to disconnect this rail, we need to take this blue clip out. So we're going to take this blue lock out of here. Once we get that off, we're going to set that aside because we're going to need that later. So we're going to push this white tab in. When you push that in, it's going to allow that to come off. And you might want to grab a rag because there's probably still some residual fuel in here, and then we don't want to spill it all over the intake. After that, we're going to unclip this line so we can move it out of the way. So next we're going to disconnect our fuel injectors. We want to get this whole harness out of the way, so we'll probably disconnect our coil packs as well. So to do that, for the coil pack, we're going to press in on this little black tab, and that's going to allow us to unclip that. Now for the fuel injectors, you're going to have a little red locking tab. You need to pry up on that tab. Once you get the red locking tab up, you're going to press in on the little black tab, and it's going to allow us to disconnect these. So then we're going to do the same thing for the other side. I'm going to free this harness up a little bit just so we can get a little more room. The next thing we're going to do is remove our fuel rails. So you're going to have two of them. You have one on each side. You're going to have these two bolts in the middle. We're going to use a T30 Torx to take those out. Once we get those out, we're going to pry up on the fuel rails so we can get them out. And be very careful because the fuel rails are connected, and also we have fuel injectors in them. After we get that all disconnected, we can pull it out of the vehicle. After that, we're going to remove our fuel injectors. So to do that, we're just going to pry up on them and wiggle them out. And make sure that this little O-ring comes with it. If it doesn't, we need to remove it out of the lower intake manifold. The next thing we're going to do is install our new fuel injectors. Now if you have any blue O-rings that are still stuck in here from the old fuel injectors, you can get those out with a flathead screwdriver or a pick tool. So we're going to install our new fuel injectors. So you're going to have a red O-ring and a blue O-ring. The blue O-ring side is going to go into the fuel rail. We're going to make these connections face outward. What we're going to do is just take a little bit of grease. And we want to grease these up a little bit so that they slide in there. We don't mess the little rubber O-ring up. After that, we're just going to gently wiggle these into place. So we're just going to go around and get all of these injectors in, and then we're going to put our fuel rail back in. Just wiggle them all the way down, then they're going to stop. They have a little stop built in. Then we can put that fuel rail on. So before you get this installed, we want to lube these other O-rings. After you do that, we're ready to install it. We're gonna flip this back over, just get it situated. Then we'll make sure that they all seat into place and get those bolts back in. So then you want to torque all these to 7 Newton meters. After that's installed and tightened down, we can plug our fuel injectors back in. Make sure you click down the red locking tab. Coils back in. The next thing we're going to do is remove our alternator as well as our serpentine belt. So we're going to start by unplugging our alternator. So you're going to need to push this red locking tab out, and we can press down on this. Next we're going to disconnect our terminal up here. So you're just going to squeeze on these 2 little tabs. That's going to allow you to take that cover off. And we're going to use a 13mm wrench to crack this nut free and remove it. Then, so we don't lose the nut, we're going to put it back on. So before we start removing the bolts for our alternator, we're going to take our belt off. So you're going to have a tensioner down here. It's going to have a square cut into it. This is for a 1/2 inch drive. So we're going to use a breaker bar just to put tension on this tensioner, loosen it up, and that way we can take our belt off. So to take the alternator off, you're going to have 2 bolts on both sides. We're going to use a 13mm socket for this lower one, and we'll use a 15 for the upper one. So we're going to do that same thing on the other side. This is the last bolt for the alternator, so you want to place a hand on the alternator. That way when we get this bolt out, we can remove it from the vehicle. So the next thing we're going to do is remove our factory belt, because we're going to switch it out for our supercharger belt. So we're going to start pulling this off of all the pulleys and get it out of here. So the next thing we need to do is take this large gray plug. We need to make it reach the back of the motor. So we're going to slice this open carefully, guide that all the way back, and then we'll tape it up. So once you get this peeled back pretty much to this second middle injector, we're just going to tape all this back up and wrap this sheathing back around too. Tape everything up.
That way that plug will stay back there, and we'll have all these wires protected again. So after you get that plug all taped down, the next thing we're going to do is take this wiring harness. We're going to use the provided zip ties they give us. We're going to zip tie it to the valve cover. So the next thing we're going to do is take our water pump harness that they give us. We're going to go on injector for number 2 cylinder, which is on the driver's side front. We're going to plug this into the injector, and then we're going to plug the injector harness into this other plug. After that, we're going to run this section all the way down our radiator on the driver's side. So we'll make sure that that clicks. I'm going to push the red lock down, and we're going to plug this other side back into the injector, making sure that that clicks, and then locking that red locking tab. After that, we're just going to pick a safe route to take this down underneath of our radiator.
So the next thing we need to do, since this is an automatic transmission, we need to take our transmission fill tube out. This is so we can cut it, spin a section around, and put it back together. So there's a few bolts down underneath of the Jeep where it attaches to the transmission. Now if you have a manual transmission, you don't need to do this. Why? Because you don't have a fill tube.
So we're underneath of the Jeep on the side of the transmission. You're going to have this bolt here. We're going to use a 10mm socket to take that bolt out so we can take the fill tube out. So after that, we're going to follow this fill tube up. You're going to see another bracket up here. That's going to have another bolt in it. We're going to use a 10mm socket to get that bolt out. That should allow us to get the fill tube out. After that, you can wiggle the dipstick tube and get it out of the Jeep.
Now that we have the dipstick tube out, the next thing we're going to do, we have to make a cut. So you want to pull the dipstick all the way out. We're going to measure down from this edge here about 135 millimeters, which for those of you that don't know anything about millimeters, is about 5.3 inches. After we make that mark, we're going to put on our safety glasses, and we're going to cut this tube as straight as possible right across. So I'm going to use a cutoff wheel. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So after you get this cut, you want to clean all of these edges up. Make sure that there's no metal inside of here. Once everything's clean and prepped, what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece that we cut, we're going to spin it 180 degrees. So you're going to get this rubber hose kit with 2 clamps. What we're going to do is slide a hose clamp onto our rubber section, slide our rubber section on. Then we want to slide this about halfway down. After that, we're going to place our other clamp on there. And we're going to slide our top section in 180 degrees. Once those are all the way in and they touch, we can tighten these up. Now that that's done, we're going to reinstall it in the Jeep. So the next thing we have to do is install our water pump bracket and our new water pump. This is going to go behind the bumper where our OEM vacuum pump is. Now if you have a stock bumper, you may be able to get away without removing it, but if you do have to remove it, it's just going to be a couple 18mm nuts and a couple push pins. We had an aftermarket bumper with a winch, so there was no way that we were getting in here, so we removed that whole assembly. Now this vacuum pump normally is in this stock location, but this bracket has already been cut and it's been relocated. So with the kit, you're gonna use this front stud here. With this particular Jeep, we're gonna use this back stud here. So we're gonna use a 10mm socket to take this nut off and we'll get this bracket installed. So we're gonna take that nut off, and we're gonna install this bracket with this end facing down. Once we get this bracket installed, next we're gonna do is install our water pump. So this is just gonna slide down on this bottom section, and this back end is just gonna sit underneath of there. After we get that in, we're gonna put this zip tie in. The zip tie is going to hold it in place. So after we get this installed, you got the zip tie on. Next thing we're going to do is install intercooler hose A. So you're going to have this bend side here. This side is going to go up under this little support bar. So we're going to fish that up through there. And then this end is going to attach there. So we're going to take one of these black band clamps that they give us, and we're going to attach that onto the end. Next thing we're going to do is plug our water pump in. So we're going to take that water pump harness that we plugged in and dropped down earlier. We're going to route this in a way that it's not going to get caught on anything or burnt. And once you pick a good spot for that, we're going to plug our water pump in. After that, we're going to take our ground and we're going to stick it under that nut that we put on to hold that bracket in place. Now we're going to take this wire and we're just going to zip tie it. Next we're going to take intercooler hose C. We're going to drop this straight edge down through the bottom and underneath the radiator. So you're going to bring this hose underneath of the radiator above the sway bar, and we're going to connect this to our other port for our water pump. So we're going to take another black hose clamp. Slide that onto our water pump and put that clamp in place. So next we're going to take intercooler hose B, and this is going to go on the passenger side in between the radiator and the power steering fluid reservoir. You're going to have a rubber flap down here. We're going to pass this hook part through. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is assemble our intercooler and our intercooler bracket. So we're going to start with the top bracket first. You're going to have these two tabs up here. What they're going to do is they're going to go in these two holes up in this rad support. So you're going to have this nut plate. This nut plate is going to go up through this frame, and then we're going to set that behind these holes. And we're going to place this up there, and we're going to use the two small Allen-headed bolts that we get in our kit to attach this bracket to that. So we're just going to finger tighten those bolts for now, so we get the bottom section installed and the intercooler installed. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to tuck this line up behind here. So this long hose is going to get zip tied back here. So we're going to install our zip ties. After that, we're going to mount the lower intercooler mount. So you're going to have these slots in both this bracket and in this frame. All this thing's going to do is just click onto this area. So we want to line those slots up, make sure that we press it on and click it in place. After that, we're going to install our little intercooler. So before we install that, you're going to have this little plug that comes with the kit.
We're going to install that into there. Then we're going to use a 6mm Allen key to tighten that up. And you want to torque it to 12 Newton meters. After that, we're going to install this. So you have these two welded ports up here. We're going to stick this end in first, and then we're going to slide it underneath of this top bracket. Once we get it underneath of there, we're going to take our M8 bolts, the flat washers that they give us, and we're going to put them through these top holes. Once you get these bolts installed, we're going to take a 13mm wrench and tighten those up. So then we can go back up to the top. We can tighten these Allen head bolts. We're going to use a 5mm Allen key to tighten those up. So at this point in time, we can hook these hoses up to our intercooler. So we're going to take 2 more black band clamps. We're going to do this upper hose and then the bottom hose. Want to make sure that these hoses go all the way on and bottom out. The next thing we're going to do is take these little black studs that they give us in our hardware pack, and we are going to insert them into this lower intake manifold. So we're going to thread these in, making sure not to drop them down our ports. You can always stick some paper towel or tissue paper in there if you want to cover them up. We're going to take all 7 of these and insert them in there, and we're going to take a 4mm socket and we're going to tighten these down and torque them. So for these 4 studs, you want them on the inboard location. After that, we're going to use that 4mm socket to torque these to 8 Newton meters. So at this point in time, we are ready to install the supercharger. So the first thing we're going to do is take our supercharger, flip it upside down on a table, because we have to take this bottom plate off. The bottom plate is held on with these 4 black bolts. So if you can't get them free with your hand, you can use a 10mm socket to get these out. What we have to do is we have to flip this plate over, and we're going to reinstall these bolts, and we're going to capture them with some nylon lock nuts. After that, we're ready to install the plate on our Jeep. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now.
We are going to install these bolts up through the bottom. And then we're going to take these little nylock nuts that they give us, and we're just going to capture them. So we just want to do this finger tight. That way it'll hold that bolt in there for when we place it on the engine. Now we're ready to install it on the Jeep. So before we get this plate installed, we're just gonna clean up some of this wiring in here. So like this harness here, we're gonna zip tie it down to this valve cover. We can put our fuel line back on and then get all this stuff tucked down nice and neat so we can get this plate on. After you get the plate on, next thing we're gonna do is take our nylon lock nuts, both that we installed to hold these black bolts in, and the other 3 that come with the kit, and we're gonna install those on these studs. Make sure you don't drop any of these down the intake port. So what I did was I just stuck tape on the back side of these bolts just to hold them in, because of course we're taking these nuts off. After that, we're gonna take a 10mm socket and we're just gonna tighten these down, making sure that we keep everything pretty even. But for right now, we just want to tighten this down, make sure that it's not crushing any wiring, and make sure that this thing's gonna seat all the way. All right, so once we have all these nuts installed and we have them tightened down, next thing we're gonna do is torque them. So we're gonna torque them to 12 Newton meters, make sure that everything is good to go, and then we'll move on to the next step. So one thing I would like to point out is after you torque these, you may want to let it sit for a while and then recheck the torque, because we did have to torque them again. However, we're going to move on to the next step. So the next step, we're going to install our throttle body extension harness, and we're going to install our map sensor extension harness. So that's going to be these 2 plugs over on the driver's side. So we're going to start with our map sensor. We're just going to plug that end in. This harness is only going to fit 1 plug, so we're going to send this across the motor to the passenger side, and then we're going to do the same thing for our throttle body. And we'll make sure that both of them click, and we're going to keep these over in this direction. So before we get our supercharger installed, we're going to do one thing. That's to install our pulley. Now in the kit, you're going to have 2 different thickness shims. We're going to use our 1mm shim. So you're gonna have a cutout in the back of this. This shim is gonna drop down in there. And then we're gonna use these 4 silver bolts that have an Allen head to attach that to our drive. After we do that, we're gonna torque it down. So I'm gonna show you how to do that right now. Once you get all of these installed, the next thing we have to do is torque them down. So we're gonna use a 5mm Allen key. We're gonna hold this thing still. We're gonna torque it down with our torque wrench to 12 Newton meters. So the way I'm holding this still is I'm just sticking a flathead screwdriver underneath in between these 2 bolt heads. And that way we can attempt to hold this thing in place. So the last thing we have to do before we actually set this down on the motor is we need to install a bolt in the back of this intake. This because it's a very long bolt, we're not going to be able to get it in there when it's set on top of the motor. So in the upper intake manifold supercharger kit, you're going to have a bag of hardware. You're going to have 2 long bolts. We need to use the one that is 90mm long, which is right around 3.5 inches. So you're going to use the shorter of the long bolts, and you're going to have a very thick washer that we're going to place on that. So we're just going to drop that in this hole right in the back, and then we'll set this on top of the motor. So the last thing on the motor before we actually set the supercharger down, we need to remove number 6 coil. This is going to be the driver's side rear coil pack. So we're going to use a 10mm socket to get this bolt out, and we need to unplug the coil, of course. So you're going to press in on this little tab right here, and that's going to allow you to disconnect that, and we can just wiggle and pull our coil out. So at this point in time, we are ready to install our supercharger. So what we're going to do is carefully lower this down and place it on top of our lower manifold plate. So once we get the supercharger on and in place, the next thing we're going to do is just catch a few threads with that bolt that we previously installed. I actually had to cut a little bit of insulation away just so we could get to that bolt and fit this thing in. Well, now we're not going to tighten that bolt up. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to install the longest bolt that they give us. We're going to place another thick washer on that, and that's going to go in this hole in the middle of the back. So we're going to get that started with a few threads, and then we'll get some of the other hardware in. So at this point in time, we still have to install those 4 black bolts that we had captured in the bottom of the intake, but we're gonna go around and use these silver bolts that have a flanged head. So we're just gonna go around the perimeter and get all of these started by hand. So right here in the front, we're gonna have one of those black bolts, so we need to get that started up into the intake manifold. We're gonna move on to this other hole, start that with one of those silver bolts. So underneath of our supercharger pulley, next to our fuel line, we're gonna have another space for one of those black bolts. So we're gonna go ahead and get that one started by hand. We're gonna go down the driver's side with those silver bolts, get all those installed. So the next thing we're going to do is go around to the back side where we pulled that coil out, and we need to get those 2 black bolts in. So we're going to get them hand tight, and we'll go around and torque everything down. So these last 2 bolts back here are pretty tricky to get in. They might take you a little while. We finally got those in, so we're going to go around and tighten everything up. So we're going to start with these 2 back bolts underneath the rear of the supercharger. We're going to use a 10mm wrench to tighten those up. These back ones are very hard to get to, so you're going to need to be very patient with them. We're supposed to torque them to 12 Newton meters.
So the third one we're going to tighten is this one underneath of the cowl. Same thing, going to use a 10 millimeter, tighten that bad boy up.
So after you do that back one all the way back there, we're going to do this one in the middle of this supercharger. So we're going to torque that down to 12 Newton meters. So we had one bolt left over. It turns out that this bolt goes back here underneath of this pressure relief valve. So we're going to install that now. That's the next one we need to torque. So now that we have that bolt in and tightened up, next thing we're going to do is torque it down. So you're going to need 1/4 inch drive, 10 swivel socket with an extension just to get in behind here. So after you get that one tight back there, we're going to do these two right here. Same thing, we're going to torque them to 12 Newton meters. So next we're going to move over to the driver's side and we're going to do these back two right here. Next we're going to back over to the passenger side, we're going to do this one here. Next we're going to go back to the driver's side, we're going to do these two front ones here. So next we're going to go to the front of the motor, we're going to do these four all across the front. So we're going to start with this one right here. Next we're going to do this black-headed bolt right here from underneath. Next we're going to do this one right here behind the oil filter housing, and we're going to do that last one underneath of there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the driver's side and we're going to put that coil back in that we took out. So you're just going to press that back in, plug it back in, then we're going to reinstall that bolt, tighten it up with a 10 millimeter. Next thing we are going to do with this install is attach our idler pulley supercharger support bracket. So this bracket is going to attach to the front end and this end is going to wrap around the supercharger. You're going to have a little hole back here that this little foot's going to sit in. It's actually going to press up against the fuel line, so we need to kind of move that fuel line just a little bit out of the way. After that, we're going to attach this band up here. So you're going to have this strap that's going to go around there, and you're going to take your M6 by 20 millimeter bolts, which are the long hex head black bolts that they give you, and those are going to screw into that. So we're going to do that first, then we'll move on. So we'll go ahead and get this other side installed. So next we're going to take our M6 by 12 millimeter bolts and we're going to install two down here. We're going to take our last M6 by 12 millimeter bolt and we're going to place the flat washer that they gave us in the kit. Now this is the thinner of the flat washers. You're going to have two larger ones, they're for the idler pulleys. This is going to keep this from pulling through. So we're going to install it on the back side of this bracket. And once we get that hand tight, we're going to go around and torque all these down. So we're going to go around and torque all of these to 12 Newton meters. Since we can't fit a socket torque wrench on this, we're just going to use a wrench for that one. So we're going to start with this one back here. Tighten that one down. Then we're going to do these two down here at the bottom. Since we can use a torque wrench, we're going to torque them down. So next we're going to do these top ones for the strap. Same thing, these are going to get torqued to 12 Newton meters. So now that we have this bracket on and secured, the next thing we're going to do is install our idler pulleys. Now these are reversible, so you can put them on either way. After that, we're going to use a large 3 millimeter thick flat washer that comes in our kit. We're going to use the M8 by 16 millimeter long bolts. We're going to install the bolt through the washer,
and that's going to attach it to the bracket. So we're going to do that for both of these pulleys, and then we'll get them torqued down. Next, we're going to grab our torque wrench with a 13mm socket. We're going to set it to 23 Newton meters and torque these down. So next thing we're going to do is install our alternator. Now we already have our belt in, so we're going to make sure that this stays somewhat out of the way when we get our alternator in the middle of that. We're going to place our alternator back down in here, making sure that this belt goes around it, and then we'll get our factory bolts reinstalled. So we're going to get those two long shish kebab bolts in the top, and we're going to install these other little guys down at the bottom. So when you get all that hardware installed, we're going to go and torque everything down. So these top larger, longer bolts are going to use a 15mm socket. We're going to torque them to 54 Newton meters. So the bottom one, we're going to use a 13mm socket, and we're going to torque that to 30 Newton meters. Then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So the next thing we're going to do is plug our alternator in. So we're going to click that plug back on. We're going to press that red lock in. And we're going to put our terminal, our wire back on our terminal. Put that nut back on. Then we're going to use a 13mm socket. And we're going to torque that down to 13 Newton meters. And we can put our cover back on. So at this point in time, we are ready to install our belt and get it around these pulleys. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our 1/2" drive breaker bar. We're going to go into our tensioner, making sure to push it in that little square. So we're going to go in between these two idler pulleys and around the supercharger pulley. Make sure that the belt is on all of the other pulleys and accessories, and then you can release that tension. And now our belt's on. So next thing we're going to do is remove our stock throttle body from our stock intake. This is because we're going to switch it over to the new one. So you're going to have 4 bolts in here. We're going to use an 8mm socket to get all of those out. Then we'll get it installed on the new one. And since we're swapping over our O-ring, we're going to take this out without damaging it. So prior to installing the throttle body, we're going to install that O-ring that we removed. So we're going to fit this into the housing. Next thing, we're going to install our throttle body. So you're going to have 4 M6 by 40mm Allen head bolts. Each one is going to get a washer, and we're going to bolt this thing on. We're going to use our 5mm Allen key to get these things started, and then we'll tighten them up. Once we go to tighten them up, we just want to make sure that we tighten them in an even way. Doesn't really tell us a torque spec in the instructions, so we're just going to get these nice and tight, but we don't want to over tighten them. After that, we're going to plug our throttle body in.
So the next thing we're gonna do is install our map sensor. That's gonna go right here in between the intake and the supercharger. You're gonna get a brand new one with this kit, and we are gonna lube this O-ring up just a little bit. After that, we're gonna go ahead and wiggle this in. Now you're gonna get a self-tapping screw with this kit. So that's gonna go in that hole. We're gonna tighten that up using a 7mm socket. Now this screw is going into plastic, so we don't want to tighten it too much because we might strip the plastic. So you just want to get it pretty tight, and then we're going to plug that in. We're going to take this plug with the orange little rubber on there. We're going to plug that in. Plug that in until that clicks. So the next thing we're going to do is zip tie some of this excess wiring up. That way we can keep it away from our drive belt. So the next thing we're going to do is attach this engine breather hose onto this fitting back here. Next, we're going to attach our intercooler lines. So this longer line that is coming from the driver's side, that is going to go to the back. So we're going to install that one back there. So next we're going to come over to our passenger side, to our evap purge solenoid, and we're going to remove this lower line. So you're going to have this blue lock. We need to get that off. And you're going to press this white tab on the back side. That's going to unlock that. We can pull that line off. We're just going to use a little flathead screwdriver to get that lock off of there. And we can press in on the back. That's going to free it up and allow us to slide it off. So you're just going to follow this line. We need to remove it from the vehicle. So we're going to get it out of this little holding area. And then we're going to move over to this bracket right here. So this bracket, we're going to need to open this up. So we're going to come down to the bottom and try to pry this open. You can use a flathead screwdriver. So once you get that released, we're going to try to get this thing out of the vehicle. So the next thing we're going to do is install our new hose assembly. We're going to click this onto our evap purge solenoid, and then we're going to press that little blue locking tab in, and then we're going to put this other side into our intake manifold. So at this point in time, we're ready to install our factory air box. We switched out our cold air intake for a stock one. So you're going to have these 3 feet on the bottom. Those are going to go in these rubber bushings down here. So we're just going to set this over top and then press it in place. So now we're ready to install our brand new intake tube. Now you have to switch over your MAP sensor, your mass airflow sensor. So what you're going to do is pull that out of your stock intake. You're going to grab this gently with pliers, turn it counterclockwise, wiggle it out, install it in here, turn it clockwise. After you do that, we're going to put a band clamp on both ends. So we're going to take our new air intake tube, we're going to install our brand new band clamps that they give us. We're going to start with the throttle body side first. We're going to make sure that that sits flush. Once we get it flush, we can tighten this up with a flathead screwdriver. Then we're going to connect this to our air box. After that, we're going to take our PCV hose, we're going to attach it to this fitting on the airbox. After that, we are going to plug in our mass airflow sensor. So you're going to have this little plug down here, it needs to connect to that little sensor. So next we're going to go over to the driver's side and we're going to install our brake booster vacuum hose. So this is going to go on this port right here. I'm just going to slide that on. That's going to complete the installation of that hose. So at this point in time, we are basically done with the install in the engine bay. So the next thing you're going to do is just go around and zip tie everything out of the way. So we have this new harness that we installed. We want to bundle that up, zip tie that away from any hot and moving parts, especially this serpentine belt. the new heater core lines that we put in. We want to zip tie those to this radiator hose here, and then just clean everything up and kind of keep it out of the way. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to fill up our supercharger's coolant system. So you're going to have this cap right here. We're going to twist that off, and we're going to stick our funnel in and fill it up with coolant. So we're going to take our gallon of antifreeze, and we're going to start filling the system up. We're going to do it nice and slow because this is going to purge some air bubbles out, and we don't want it to spill everywhere. The system's going to take about 1.9 liters according to Sprintex. That's going to be about half a gallon of coolant. So we got this system for the supercharger pretty much filled, so we're going to put this cap on. After we run it, we will shut it down, check this level again, and top it off if need be. So we're going to put this cap back on, and then we're going to move to filling up our coolant system for the engine. So like I said, the next thing that we are doing is adding coolant to the cooling system. This is the cooling system for the actual engine. Now what we're using here is a vacuum system. This is going to pull a vacuum on there, get all of the air out of the system, and then we're going to fill it with coolant. You don't have to necessarily use this, but this is what Sprintex wants you to use. So what we're going to do is just install this down in there, and then we're going to tighten up this lower section. It's going to create a nice tight seal. And then we're going to hook up our air line to that and pull a vacuum. And we're going to make sure that it holds that vacuum before we fill it with coolant. So after we hook this air line up, we're going to press this little button underneath it here, and that's going to pull a vacuum. So if you are doing it this way with this system, you want to pull a vacuum at least into the green. You want to make sure that that vacuum holds. That way we don't have any leaks in the system. After that, we're going to hook up our other side, and we're going to put that in our coolant bottle. After we do that, we're going to open this valve just a little bit so we can bleed all this air out. Then we're going to pull another vacuum to get rid of all that air. Then we'll suck our coolant in. So I'm going to open this valve very slowly, and that's going to suck all, it's going to fill that whole line up with coolant. After that, we're going to pull another quick vacuum. We're going to get that back into the green, and then we're going to open this up and allow our system to fill up with coolant. While you're doing this, you want to go very slowly, and we want to make sure that we don't run out of coolant in the bottle either. So it looks like we're good, so we're going to disconnect this whole system. That's going to give us a good head start on filling this cooling system up. So we had this clamp pinching off our overflow because that was actually keeping us from pulling a vacuum, so we're going to take that off, and then we're just going to top this system off. So what I'm doing is just squeezing the upper rad hose, and that's going to allow us to burp some of those extra bubbles out. Pretty much want to do that until there's no more bubbles left. So we're going to go over to our coolant overflow. We're going to open that up and just fill that up a little bit, since ours is slightly empty. And that way, when we run the engine, if it needs to suck a little bit more in, it can pull from this. It's about halfway, that should be good. We're going to reinstall our radiator cap. Next, we're going to reconnect our battery's negative terminal. And we're going to use a 10mm socket to tighten up that nut. So at this point in time, we are ready to load our tune. So we're inside of the Jeep with the tuner. Most likely when you get this thing, it's going to need an update. Now you can do this via Wi-Fi if you have that available, or you can plug it into your computer, go to Diablo Sports website, and then update the tuner as well. So we've already updated our tuner. What we're going to do is take our OBD2 cable, we're going to plug that into our tuner. Then we're going to plug this other end into our OBD2 port. This is underneath the dash near your left leg. So once you plug it in, this is going to power up. So we're going to stick our key in the ignition and wait for this thing to turn on. So it's going to ask us to agree to the terms. We're going to press yes. Then we're going to click tune the vehicle. After that, we're gonna make sure that the key is in the run position. So you don't wanna start the engine, you just wanna turn the key to the run position. After that, we're gonna press continue. Then we're gonna click yes. So what this tuner is gonna do right now is it's going to save our stock tune, and then it's gonna upload the new tune. So right now it is pulling the stock tune. Please turn your ignition off. So we're gonna turn that off, then we're gonna press continue. Now it's asking us to turn the engine back on, or the ignition on. We don't wanna start the engine. So we're gonna press continue. So now we just have to wait for this to load 100%, and then hopefully our tune is installed and we can fire this thing up. All right, so it's done loading. It's asking us to turn the ignition off, so we're gonna do that. Press OK. Now it's asking for the ignition on, still not starting the vehicle. Pressing continue. All right, and it looks like we are complete, so we're gonna continue, and then we can unplug the tool. So at this point in time, we should be okay to unplug the tuner, so we're just gonna turn the engine off, unplug the tuner. So at this point in time, we are just going to start this Jeep up. So we started our Jeep up and we allowed it to run for a little while. This is so it can burp out all of the air in both of the cooling systems. After that, we shut it down, we checked for leaks, and we also opened those up and topped them off. Now the supercharger is encased and filled with oil, but there is a dipstick on top that you can pull that out and make sure that it has the correct level. So at this point in time, you should be all good to go. So you're ready to reinstall that grille, and if you did take your bumper off, you can put that back on. So next what we're gonna do is reinstall our grille. So we'll need to click those lights back in that we took out. This is gonna be the reverse order of exactly how we took it apart. After that, we're gonna click our bottom in. So we're gonna line that up, click our bottom in. We're gonna install our top push pins. So we finally got this supercharger installed. What we're doing is taking it for a test drive right now. We're gonna drive it around for a little while, let it warm up, kind of get a feel for it. We'll dive a little deeper into exactly what's going on here. So driving this thing moderately, it's very smooth. You don't really hear the supercharger a lot, but just driving it around like a Jeep, I mean, you could totally daily drive this thing. You'd never even know it was there until you give it some throttle. So if I can hear it inside of the Jeep, people are definitely going to be able to hear it outside of the Jeep. So everyone's going to know that your Jeep is supercharged. They're going to know that it's a lot cooler than their Jeep. So a lot of times when we're off-roading, we get into situations where we get stuck. If you have larger tires and you're in a sticky situation and your motor just isn't cutting it, having a supercharger give you an extra 100 horses, it's going to allow you to throttle your way out of a situation. So driving on the highway speeds, doing 60 miles an hour right now. I don't really hear the supercharger whining at all. It has a pretty smooth idle. There's no real fluctuation in anything like that.
So far, we haven't gone above operating temperature. We've kept a nice, cool temperature. This supercharger has its own water-to-air intercooler, which so far has been really good. So we're running really nice. It's a very smooth idle. This whole system is designed to build boost at a very low RPM, which is going to be great for highway driving. It's going to be great for off-roading. It's going to give you a lot of low-end torque, which these larger vehicles need. So we add a lot of weight to these Jeeps. They're already heavy to begin with, especially the 4-door model. So bumping up that power and giving it greater acceleration, it's going to make your drive more enjoyable. I'll tell you what, this is going to make your Jeep a lot more fun to drive. If you're looking to add a ton of power to your Jeep, a ton of pickup, throttle response, a really cool supercharger sound, and honestly just having a lot more fun, enjoying driving your Jeep around even more than you already do because it's a Jeep. We all have fun driving our Jeeps. I think this was a great option to go with. It's really going to be nice. You're really going to be happy with it.
For more videos like this, check us out at extremeterrain.com.